30.4 seconds.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it. Redo.
Now you're beginning to see it change. It's more than 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if it takes you more than 30 seconds to see a color change with the oxidase test, is that positive or negative?
Negative.
Okay. Okay, let's go
If
over.
it takes more than 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, ours was positive.
Ours is positive.
Yeah, because it
The
says
practical.
positive returns within 30 seconds, right?
We didn't time it, but
It was 30
it was 30
seconds, yeah.
seconds.
So it was
We could
non-entero
always try it again.
bacteria, blah, blah, blah.
Can't you just say
Enterobacteriaceae?
positive?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you have
Positive
to
will
say
do.
what it is.
Oh.
The exam will consist of 33 questions.
Oh my god.
3 points each. You get 1 point for spelling your name correctly. Sorry, okay. So 33 questions, 3 points each. It'll be set up like an anatomy and physiology exam. There'll be a station with a test tube. There'll be a station with an agar plate around the room. I'm not a fan of the Pavlov's dog version of an exam. Every 30 seconds you have to get up and you know. I follow the Bible method. Seek and you shall find. There'll be questions scattered around the room. They'll be numbered. You get an answer sheet. You let loose one person per station. You find an empty spot. Read the question, fill in the answer. Well, there's another empty spot. Read the question, fill in the answer. And that's how the exam's going to work. If I see somebody at one spot for an excessive amount of time, I'll have to move. You can go back. That will give you ample opportunity to take a correct answer and change it to an incorrect answer. You are allowed to go back, just be careful. A late study shows that more people will change incorrect answers to correct answers. However, it's up to you to change the answer. The other problem is, make sure you fill in the right answer to the right slot. So if you're filling out answer 15, don't put it in spot number 1. And that's how the exam is going to work. Because there won't be any lecture material before, I should have this exam will be ready to go at 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock. Right? No,
We start-
I'm sorry, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock. I don't know if there's a class in here. No, at 2 o'clock. So it'll be ready to go at 2 o'clock. It will probably be finished by 3 o'clock, but you'll have plenty of time to finish. I'll have your grades for you that time. I can give you your tentative final average, and I can let you know what grade you need on the optional final to get the next highest grade. Now, as far as questions on the exam, expect a number of questions asking you about what type of media.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Media.
A number of questions asking you what type of media this is. And the question's going to be like this. I'm going to sheet of paper, save me writing. It's going to say this is, and I'm going to put in the name of a medium that you've used this semester. Then it's going to say this medium is selective, differential, multitest, etc. And you're going to fill in the answer.
Wait, circle it or
Circle
write
it?
myself?
No, you're going to write it on the answer sheet.
Gotcha.
That's the
So
opposite
there
of what
won't
we
be
just
any
said.
A, B, no, A, B,
Oh,
C, no. You're going to write the whole answer on the answer sheet.
Figure out
Yes.
what
But will you say, will you give us the options of selective, differential?
Yes.
Okay.
Like you would have to identify this.
So you'll have a number of questions like that.
Yeah, but that could be
Okay.
anything.
So in a sense, it's kind of multiple choice.
Huh?
So it's kind of multiple choice
Oh,
to
well,
an extent.
I would say, don't quote me, but I would say probably close to half the questions are the equivalent of multiple choice. There'll be several questions like that. There'll be a couple of questions of, is the reaction seen positive or negative? That's sort of like multiple.
But you'll give the reaction's name, right?
Not necessarily, but in almost all cases, I'll give you the name of the medium. So this is Simmons citrate slant.
Okay.
That'll ask you questions about it.
Okay.
In most
This,
cases.
this is MRVP. What reagent do you have to add to test for acid production? Okay? This is MRVP. Alpha naphtol and potassium hydroxide has been added. What are you testing for? Next question, is the reaction C positive or negative? This is how questions will work. There'll be, okay, let me do the whole review. Starting from the last exam, you had ultraviolet radiation exercise. There'll be questions on that. Remember, it was set up as a scientific method. So you had control, you had the constants, you had the variable. Why were the plates covered or uncovered? You had the Kirby-Bauer test. What's the name of the recognized test? What's the medium for the Kirby-Bauer test? How would you determine the standards that I gave you? So a sensitive reaction, an intermediate reaction, or a resistant reaction. The next lab, you had basic biochemistry. There you had phenol red dwarf. What are the three possible results of growth in phenol red dwarf? Recognized. You had OF basal medium. What are the three possible results of inoculation in OF basal medium? You had cinnamon citrate. What are you testing for in cinnamon citrate? What are the reactions? In the later part of the lab, you had decarboxylase reactions. Well, what's with the 3 amino acids with that? What does it mean when you finish, you see a tube that's purple? What do you mean if you see a tube that's light yellow? You had nitrate reduction. You had indole production. What's the substrate that's broken down for indole production? What reagent do you have to add? You had nitrate reduction. What reagents do you have to add? What's the name of the powder that you have to add? What does it mean if you add the first two reagents and you get a color change? What does it mean if you add the first two reagents and zinc and then you get a color change? What does it mean if you add the first two reagents and zinc and you don't get a color change? You had the urease test. What is the substrate for urease? What is the endpoint? What would be the pH? We just had a practical example of that in lecture today. What does urease do? Produces ammonia, raises the pH. The next lab was the introduction to specialized media. You had differential media. What are the three possible types of differentiation on a blood agar plate? If you remember, I showed you those as show and tell. Plus you had the acid trace sensitivity in CAM to show you some of those reactions. But you had that on all the medias before. What is differential? What is selective? Highly selective, selective and differential multi-test. On those, you had phenylethyl alcohol. What kind of medium is phenylethyl alcohol? What grows on it? What doesn't grow on it? You had mannitol salt agar. What specific genus and species will grow with a color change? What genus grows on it? You had Mahankey and EMB. What grows on it and what do particular colors mean with the growth or lack of particular colors? What are all the possible reactions in triple sugar iron agar? What are all the possible reactions in sulfide ketol ultimately? After that, you had some epidemiology. What is a fulminate? What would be a common source? What would be retracted? Not too much more on that. Propagated, I should say.
Professor, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you say that?
Okay, what would be a common source in the epidemiology lab? What would be a common source? What would be a fulminate? What would be a protracted epidemic? After that, you had your specimen handling protocols. What is the function of transport media? Recognize transport media. On your analysis, what does it mean if you have growth on the T-soy plate And what does it mean if you have growth on the McConkey or EMB, but no growth on the T-soy? What does it mean if you have equal amounts of growth on T-soy, McConkey, EMB? What does it mean if you have a lot of growth on T-soy, much less growth on McConkey, EMB? How would various amounts of growth be diagnosed and reported? During that lab, I did a number of demonstrations. One demonstration was the strep A rapid test with that little strip. What does it mean if you have a blue line and a red line? What does it mean if you have only a red line? What does it mean if you only have a blue line? What does it mean if you don't have any lines at all? You had the bacitracin sensitivity test. What specific genus and species is positive for the bacitracin sensitivity test? You had the CAMP test. What specific genus and species is positive for the CAMP test? You had the coagulase test. What specific genus and species is positive for the coagulase test? And certainly recognize the tests. You had catalase test. What enzyme is the catalase? What does it work on? How do you recognize positive and negative? What genus of the two bacteria I gave you, what genus is positive, what genus is negative? In that lab was the oxidase test, which I demonstrated the week following. We're now in what you did last week. With last week, everything was a review except, how do you tell the difference between an Enterobacteriaceae and a non-Enterobacteriaceae? What is the Methyl-Red test? What is the Wilkes-Roscoe test? What is the gelatin liquefaction test? By the way, that should be cold enough by now to be actual results. And what is the oxidase test? Okay, here you have gelatin liquefaction. So here are my sources of questions for the exam. At this point, any questions about how the lab exam is going to work? As you're thinking about it, if you have any questions, please ask. I do not intend it to be any kind of surprise.
Do you do with the chapters again?
No.
I have some
Give me a couple of seconds.
schedule.
Okay. I kind of got this, but after you finish from this one,
Okay.
you want
So, which is the important
to
Okay,
important
so.
pages. This is gonna be fun.
Okay, exercise 10, 11,
10, 11,
13, 15, 16, 17, literally only one page of 18, only one page of 18.
Okay.
I don't know. Somewhere in page 18, 19. That's it. Now, we're going to be doing 21, but there will be no questions on the exam on 21. And that's when we're going to just play around, show you a couple of ways that we use to figure, and you'll guess. Remember, everybody here gets the 5 points, whether you guess